Napolitano.
Hello, Jamie. How are you?
I know to you I may look old. Hope this statement ain't too bold, but here comes the judge. Here comes the judge.
Yes, indeed. So, hey, by the way, Merry Christmas, Judge Napolitano.
Oh, right back at you, Jamie. Same to you, my dear friend.
Can I ask you something very briefly? Because you and I like to geek out on this kind of stuff regarding certain matters of faith. Did you see that there was a proposed change in the Lord's Prayer coming from the papal reaches? Because apparently the lead us not to temptation is some kind of insinuation that God would even do that, and they want to take that out because they claim it's a bad translation.
Yeah. I honestly think that the suggested translation is more literarily accurate, but are you really going to change something that's been ingrained in our brains and has been stated this way for 400 years?
Yeah.
Since the time of St. Thomas More, we've been saying the Our Father, also known as the Lord's Prayer, this way.
Right.
Did you notice that the Pope started to refer to his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI, as Joseph Ratzinger?
Oh, Lord.
In public.
Oh, shame on him.
What is that all about?
Oh, we
could do these. Did you notice, what do you think about this papacy and beyond the whole show?
Oh, I know.
So many of these.
Next thing you know, he's going to have like an Antifa scarf over his face. Oh, I better not talk like that. Anyway, I better stop while I'm ahead here. Hey, listen, where did this idea that President Trump would fire Mueller? I mean, as things started to happen, especially as this document dump became a thing where the GSA handed over emails, first of all, can you explain how that happened? And secondly, where this idea that President Trump would fire Mueller came from?
I'll do the second one first.
Okay.
It seems to have come from a liberal Democratic congresswoman named Jackie Speier in California, who simply said this to a group of people, which included members of the media, and it just caught fire, thinking that Congress is going to be gone. It's 3 days before Christmas, because she was suggesting this was going to happen on December 22nd when nobody was in D.C. after they presumably passed this tax bill, which will raise my taxes considerably. Another issue for another time. I don't know where she got it from, but it just went wild, and it caused the president to deny it. Now, can he fire Mueller? No. He can direct the attorney general or the deputy attorney general to do so. If they refuse, then he can fire them. This is what happened with Richard Nixon and Archibald Cox. He directed the attorney general to do so. The attorney general resigned. He directed the deputy to do so. The deputy resigned. The acting attorney general was the solicitor general, a guy who had achieved great notoriety years later, Robert Bork. He complied and fired Archibald Cox, only to have him replaced with Leon Jaworski, who did a far more effective job on Nixon than Professor Cox had been doing. Bottom line, if the president caused Mueller to be fired, the investigation doesn't go away. It would just get a new special counsel. It might actually be more intense, and that person might actually have to go back to square one and re-examine things that Mueller has already gone through. So even though it might be personally gratifying to get rid of his tormentor, a new tormentor will pop up. Now, what happened with the GSA? GSA, Government Services Administration, is in the executive branch of the government, meaning they work for the president. They basically own and operate the government's real estate, including its computers. So when the Donald Trump transition team came into existence, that's an actual charitable foundation. It's a 501c3 corporation. The GSA said, we're your connection to the government. Here are your computers. Now, that was a big mistake for the Trump people in the transition to start using GSA computers, because all of their emails, personal, confidential, and privileged, ended up in the hands of the government. So Bob Mueller was aware of this, and he presented an application to the grand jury, which gave him a subpoena. And they served the subpoena on the GSA for all of the transition's emails. Now, here's where the problem comes. The law used to be, before 1986, if the government serves a subpoena for your records that are in the custody of somebody else, your banker, your lawyer, your doctor, your accountant. The government would also tell you, hey, we're serving this subpoena. If you don't want these records to be coughed up by the custodian of these records, here's a copy of the subpoena. Go challenge it in court. After 1986, the government no longer has to tell you. The duty to tell you belongs to the third-party custodian, doctor, lawyer, accountant, banker, in this case GSA. GSA did not tell the Trump transition people because, for the most part, the transition doesn't exist anymore. There is a lawyer who is the trustee of the transition. Bottom line, Bob Mueller got tens of thousands of emails sent and received by everybody in the transition team. Now, what's the significance of that? Well, about half of them now work in the West Wing, and they were interrogated by Mueller's FBI agents without knowing that the FBI had read their emails. That's a very dangerous situation for them, because if they lied to the FBI, we have a Mike Flynn situation where they're going to get indicted for it.
So this idea, because, I mean, I was under the impression that somehow this was just handed over and there was no process that was a legal process to get it. But you're saying there absolutely was.
Yes.
Okay.
And the person who complained about it is the lawyer for the trustee of the transition, and he complained to Congress. So he should have complained to the GSA, which had a contract with the Trump transition, and they violated the contract, and then he should have moved before the judge supervising the grand jury investigation to force Mueller to return the documents and bar him from using them if he felt that they were improperly obtained. But he didn't do that because he's not a criminal defense guy.
Right.
So this is another, Bob Mueller has a lot of faults, but violating the federal rules of criminal procedure is not one of them. And in my view, the hullabaloo over this has been an effort to tarnish him. Some of the complaints about him, in my view, are legitimate. This one is not.
All right. Well, let me ask you one quick question, though. Did you see that now famous interrogation, I guess you could call it, from Senator John Kennedy of that federal judge?
I don't know how that fellow... There are some fine federal judges who never tried cases. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah.
But this guy was so ignorant of the basics. I don't know how he graduated from law school, much less made it through Trump's vetting process. And the vetting process, as I understand it, has been more intensive than any modern president. But this guy slipped through the cracks. What an embarrassment.
Yeah, that really was. And I mean, you couldn't get more of a Trump supporter in the Senate than John Kennedy. So this clearly wasn't, designed to, just be a hack job or embarrass the president. But boy, that was bad. I actually felt sorry for that guy.
Yeah, it was cringeworthy.
Yes, no. I mean, it's one thing. You're right. There are individuals who haven't done trials, but the fact that he hadn't even done a deposition by himself and then didn't know evidentiary rules and those kinds of things, it's a tough thing. All right, Judge. Well, listen. We're so thankful for you and your presence on this show, and looking forward to another great year with you. And Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Oh. Right.
Enjoy your holiday.
You, Jamie. It's the highlight of my week. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you, your family, your great listeners, your wonderful team. And we'll be together again in 3 weeks. All the best.
Thank you so much, my friend. You too. At Judge Knapp, judgenap.com. Your phone